welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. You hear that crackle in my voice? I ate candy. It happens every time. If I eat candy, then my voice cracks throughout the podcast. So sorry. I was eating Swedish fish because they're vegan. Okay, so today is Plank Challenge Day number 14. And if you are doing the 3-minute track, you are at 70 seconds. And if you're at the 5-minute track, you're at 90 seconds. I hope I have that right. I feel like I'm doing a good job keeping track of the days, but if I mess up, whatever. We can have mistakes. We just get an extra day then if that's what happens. So 3 minutes is 70 seconds and 5 minutes is 90 seconds. And if I'm being completely honest, my back is starting to feel better, which is kind of cool. That's why I wanted to do the plank challenge. Yes, it was for selfish reasons. Everything I do is for selfish reasons. But I get to bring people along for the ride with me. Okay, so today's episode, I wanted to explore something that I ran across today that I'd never heard of. So I thought we could have an educational episode today. So this term that I ran across is called recovery capital. And I'd never heard of this. So I wanted to find out what it is. And I found out that it has multiple dimensions. And I wanted to provide a guide for us on how to build and harness this recovery capital for a more resilient recovery. So here we go. What is recovery capital? Well, thanks for asking. Recovery capital is referring to the breadth and depth of the internal and external resources that one can draw upon to initiate and sustain recovery from addiction. So it's the collective value of all the personal, social, and community assets that support your health and wellness in recovery. So I like how they're comparing it to a bank account. So think of it as a bank account where you make deposits through making positive life changes, nurturing relationships, education, building skills, and building a toolbox. Like in AA, we call it a recovery toolbox. So same thing. This is just more like a bank account, and so it can be broken down into 3 dimensions. Now, I noticed depending on the resource that you're looking at online, there's lots of different ways that this is broken down, but I liked this one. So there are 3 dimensions in this version of recovery capital. The first one is personal recovery capital. So this includes your physical health, mental health, coping and life skills, values, goals, and aspirations. It's about who you are at your core and the personal strengths that you can leverage. So I feel like this is very much the topic of this podcast often. Talking about building those coping and life skills. I talk about values all the time. I talk about, taking care of our mental health. So I think we're mainly focused on personal recovery capital, but the other 2 dimensions of recovery capital are things that I reference to lean on as we're building personal recovery capital. So I feel like, all of this stuff that you read about or hear about, to me, it's all the same thing. It's just calling it different things, People I noticed who don't practice AA, the 12 steps of AA, these other programs that I've dipped and dabbled in, they seem to be the exact same thing. They just call it different names, or they are adamant that they don't bring religious or entity into the program, so they eliminate the higher power stuff or something like that. But it's still practicing the same kind of program. As far as I'm concerned, that's what I've noticed. So that's what this seems like as well. Okay, so number one was personal recovery capital. Number two, the second dimension of recovery capital is social. So, social recovery capital, this dimension focuses on relationships and social networks that provide support, love, and hope. And it includes your family, friends, recovery groups, and any social system that supports your recovery. And personally, I made some major deposits in this area to my social recovery capital bank account today. So I'll share about those in a little bit. But I think for me, each of these require work in a different way. And the personal recovery capital, I really enjoy doing that work. I really enjoy looking inward and learning from other people's experience, strength, and hope to build my personal recovery capital. The social recovery capital, I can't do that. I can't listen to experience, strength, and hope if I'm not practicing making deposits in the social recovery capital area. And that is a struggle for me. Reaching out seems to be a struggle. Picking up the phone. It always has been. It has been since before I got sober. And I have a suspicion as to why I don't like to pick up the phone. But it's an excuse, really. It's an excuse, and I can't make excuses for things that stand between me and my recovery. So I'll talk a little bit more about this in a little bit. So the third dimension is community recovery capital, and this encompasses the resources available in your wider community that support recovery. And this is things like healthcare, recovery programs, your employment opportunities, and educational resources. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to build your recovery capital. And I just took some time to compare what I was learning to how I practice my program and kind of assigned these activities that I do for my own recovery to these different dimensions of recovery capital. So, building your recovery capital, number one, enhancing your personal capital. So, the way that we can do this is invest in your physical health, number one, through exercise, nutrition, and sleep. This is funny because while I'm doing this, I'm thinking of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. A lot of these things go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Again, it's just saying it in a different way. It's like, I ran across something called Recovery First. Wait, not Recovery First. Yeah, Recovery First. Anyway, it's a gentleman who got sober years ago, and he started this business that provides a different angle of a recovery program. And I was listening to the different ways that happens, and it's the same thing. It just seems like it's the same thing. It's not. It seems like it's not new ideas. They're all the same thing, and I kind of like the idea of learning different angles on it. Even though they seem like the same thing, I like reading about how different people articulate the same thing. So I don't know. It works for me. I kind of like it. So, all right, back to the recovery capital. So, investing in your physical health through exercise, nutrition, and sleep. We know that. Developing coping skills through therapy, mindfulness practices, and stress management techniques. So, for me, this is going to my psychiatrist, which I've gone 3 times so far and already feel like I have made a deposit. I've made a deposit in my personal capital bank account, because the more I go, the more homework she gives me, and I get to think throughout my week. It adds this additional purpose to what I'm doing and how I'm thinking, and making sure that I'm trying to get better. Whatever it is that I'm doing, I want to do it better. So I'm enjoying doing this psychiatrist thing. I knew I would, even though it's difficult to make that first call, but once you do, I find it enjoyable. I find it enjoyable to get on board with somebody else's um, educated program. Like, this lady is looking at it all from an educated background, educated in psychiatry, and she's talking about things that I never even heard of yet. So I just like it. And other ways that I'm developing my personal capital is by practicing my sobriety program, and being mindful of the steps every day in all of my affairs, as they say, by listening to the Calm app twice a day and doing 10-minute meditations. By doing my podcast, this is a way for me to manage my stress. This is my technique to talk. And then going to stroke support groups. And then lastly, enhancing personal capital. Set personal goals and work towards them incrementally. So I have my most recent goal I have set for myself, which is learning voiceover on my Mac 100%, so that I can just be 100% not looking at devices anymore. That's my commitment that I've made to myself. So what I realized right before I did the podcast and I was getting my script ready for the podcast tonight was that I didn't set a date for myself. All I did was say, your goal is to learn how to be 100% reliant on voiceover, but I didn't say by when. So I did pick a date today, and I'm giving myself 1 month. So I'm already feeling fairly proficient on my phone, and I've switched over probably, I would say, 95%. The past 2 days I've been on voiceover on my phone. So that's pretty good. The only time I've turned it off is to take a picture of my new wedding ring to send it to my daughter. And so that's pretty good. But I would like to get to the point where I'm not turning it off to take pictures. I have to figure out exactly how to do that. It does talk to you, but I haven't figured it out 100%. Okay, so these are ways that I can relate to enhancing personal capital. Number 2, strengthening social capital. And this is where I made my heavy deposits today. So, strengthening social capital can be done by cultivating supportive relationships, by engaging with support groups, finding a mentor, or participating in community events. So, today I got on the phone and started calling people. Now, I have mentioned that my world famous schedule now says, one of the lines says, call at least one person. And that's what I've been doing. And my sister knows that I have that as one of my to-dos every day, to call a person. So she called me today. She said, "Have you called your one person today?" And I actually had. So, but I thought it was adorable, Sissy, that you said that. I love you. She was on her way to visit a friend, and my sissy, I'm just going to make it publicly known, likes to get on the phone and call people when she's driving, because that's just her free time. And I kind of give her heck for that. But um, anyway, I won't focus on that right now. You're welcome. You're welcome. So anyway, my deposit. So I called an ex-coworker of mine from the job that I just left, and somebody who I haven't talked to in a while. So that was nice. When he answered the phone, he said, "Well, well, well," or something like that. So it was really cute. So I enjoyed talking to him. If I'm not mistaken, I think he listens to this podcast. So if I'm right, hello. Thanks for talking to me today. And what else did I do? I called my daughter, which I that's one of my new goals to do. I think I talked about that earlier, is making sure I pick up the phone and call my kids. Why am I missing them so much and not picking up the phone? So I called my daughter today, and then I later talked to my son this evening. He was working. And I called my sponsor today, and fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not quite sure how we look at it, but we agreed that we're breaking up, and it's a good thing because I have not been calling my sponsor, and that is a big fat no-no. Just as much as I don't call my kids, I don't call, people. I haven't been calling my sponsor, and it's something that I'm working on with my psychiatrist, but we agreed that I need to find a sponsor that is in my circle, like in my sobriety program circle. So I have a victim in mind for who I'm going to ask to be my sponsor. So we'll see what happens. I don't want to go even 24 hours without having a sponsor, so I'll reach out to her tomorrow morning. I'd do it tonight, but it's getting a little late. So is that all I did for my... Oh, I also went to lunch today with a stroke survivor. So I had an article that was published in Loudon Now, and she saw the article and she emailed me. And so we ended up meeting for some coffee today, and it was really good. And we, talked about what it's like. And even though our disabilities are very different from each other, there was so much I could relate to as far as what it feels like for your life to change, and what the challenges are with insurance and all kinds of stuff. So it was really nice. And if you listen to the podcast, I don't know if you do, but if you do, I really enjoyed. I enjoyed our time today, so I appreciate the time that you provided to me. And in that light, the second way that we can strengthen social capital is to offer our support to others, which can strengthen our own recovery and build meaningful connections. So I, I want to do this. I want to help others. And I do when I'm called upon, if I see somebody struggling or hear somebody struggling, I immediately respond and offer support. But I'm trying to also make sure that I don't get myself too wrapped up in anything that's going to cause stress, because I need to keep myself as stress-free as possible right now, because it just makes my headache and stuff worse. My vision becomes worse when I get stressed out. So that is strengthening social capital. And then finally expanding community capital. So this is utilizing community resources like workshops, educational courses, or volunteer opportunities to broaden your network and skill set. So right now I've got several things going on. I found the iBug today, which I mentioned a couple episodes ago, and this is the resource for the blind. They help people who are blind or have low vision learn technology in order to be able to do the things that they could do before. And I'm using them to learn voiceover on my digital devices. I also use LinkedIn Learning a lot. So this is really, um, I don't know that it's as much helping me with any disability per se, but as my life shifts and I find new things that I'm interested in, or things that I want to learn, I'm really happy that I have this resource to just plug in and listen to a course. So that's been enjoyable for me. And I continue to listen to the Comfort for Dark Days, which is something I also mentioned the other day. I listened to day 2, and this is more of a Bible study that is aimed for folks that are dealing with chronic illnesses, chronic pain. So that's been enjoyable. This is a very new for me. I don't think I've ever done a Bible study, and it seems like in a lot of things that I'm getting engaged with, like this whole, I don't know, higher power thing, God thing, religious thing, whatever you want to call it, keeps popping up in front of me. So I'm just going along for the ride. I'm not being judgmental or cutting anybody off or being like, no, I don't believe that. I just listen, and I'm just 100% having an open mind, because where am I at if I close anything off? It's not going to help me if I don't have an open mind. And that's, I think, first and foremost, what I need to have right now is to just welcome anything that can be educational to me, or anything that can help broaden my network or my skill set, or be supportive, anything that can provide me peace. I'm open to it, and we'll see. Does it provide me peace? I don't know. Let's see. I'm on day 2. If it does, sweet. I'm so happy that I did it. If it doesn't, it's not causing any suffering for sure. So that's another thing that I'm still doing. And I'm trying to find my place, and how I can be of service to others with my disability. My conclusion still is the same as it was when I left my job 8 months ago, and that is that I need to use my voice. It's the most intact thing that I have is my voice, and I can't travel. I can't provide any sort of physical based support that requires movement, and everything requires movement. I can't really be in a room full of a bunch of people. That's overstimulating for my vision. So it's my voice. It's my voice over digital channel seems to be. And of course, it takes a bit longer, but I've been investing a lot of time in writing, in producing a written voice to represent my experience, strength, and hope. And it takes time. It takes a couple weeks for me to put together something, and it's probably going to slow down even more as I learn how to do it with voiceover on my Mac, but I'm going to do it. Like, it's my only way, and I think it's the most fulfilling thing that I do is reach out and share my experience, strength, and hope with other people. So those are the three ways that I learned to enhance your recovery capital. And it's obviously an ongoing process, a journey of like accumulating and nurturing all these resources that make your recovery sustainable. And by focusing on enhancing personal, social, and community capital, you can thrive in recovery rather than kind of standing still, rather than just being sober, or if you apply it to stroke recovery, just being, it's what I have found. The information that I found is based on addiction recovery, but I keep being able to apply the principles of my sobriety program to my stroke recovery so easily. And I think this is yet another way that it's easily transferable over to stroke recovery. So every step we take in building our recovery capital is a step towards a more fulfilling life in recovery. And I think it will be fun. I enjoy that kind of thing. I guess I'm kind of a nerd, but I enjoy thinking about new angles on how to make recovery have more depth, more and more depth. And I like this thought about making deposits into my recovery bank account on a daily basis. And in turn, we definitely feel this wealth through the joy that we're able to surface and the fulfillment that we find in our daily activities. So this was enjoyable for me to hear about recovery capital. I like finding out new things that I hadn't run across before. So I hope this was enlightening to you, a new way of looking at things. And that's what I got for you. So thanks for joining me today on Recovery Daily Podcast. I'll talk to you tomorrow.